Go. Hello, this is Dave, and welcome to Equity Story. I'm with the one and only Wolf, and we're looking at ideas and stocks that we can that could be interesting to buy, or maybe ones that we're going to sell. And this is just a general share advice and not personal advice. And let's get going, because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stories that I've announced today. Likewise, the wonderful Wolf has been working hard since all these announcements came out about 7:30 this morning, while I've been having coffee and been trying to look important as a CEO, which doesn't really work very well. But Wolf, let's get going on these stories, and let's start with SNL, because you know what, Wolf?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is technical beauty, isn't it?
It is technical beauty, and it's one of our favorites fundamentally too, right? So there's two things that are really adding up to a story that we like. And yesterday they've come out with results, which they were pre-released, so there was not expectations of anything, magical happening here. But we also wanted to see if there's anything to talk about, the next 6 to 12 months. Unfortunately, nothing, except, things are starting quite good, which most companies say if they are on a good wicket. But I've put the numbers through. I had a look at the numbers to see if there's anything that sort of scares me. And then I tell you what, I really like the business and the management here, who are expanding the margins in a very difficult market, and looking for more growth in 2020. They've got a nice, one of those 5-year plans, which I like to see, because I like to follow things where I can see a bit of clarity where they're heading to, instead of that, 1 year we're going to have great, or next year we're not going to have great. I like to have that, some sort of a plan going through.
Okay, that's something we haven't spoken about for a few years, right? In the past, you always used to go on about having a company that had a 3 or 4 or 5-year plan. How important that is for you?
Yeah, it is.
And I just want to say, you haven't mentioned it recently. Has the charting overtaken your thought process a little bit?
No, because there's a lot of companies that just abandoned their ideas because of the problems that over the last 2 years, right?
Well, I think COVID has caused that issue, right?
Yes.
But hopefully we're over that, and we're not going to get another lockdown. Although there's talk in England of maybe another one, but hopefully not. I think there'll be rioting in the streets if they ever tried to do that again. But Wolf,
a company should always have a long-term plan or goal, right? Where you can head towards, where you can judge them by, really, at the end of the day. So for me, it is a nice factor to follow from my company point of view. And I know there's probably about 2 or 3 that we follow. RIC is one, SNL is another one. I know Altium had one of theirs, right? So it is something that I do like to see from a company, and especially when they hit those targets. And SNL is a great example of actually doing that very, very well. So for me, I've just put the numbers through, Dave. 22 times PE for a company that's growing by 20 to 30% per annum. That is good enough for me to keep holding this and possibly buy on the swing.
Well, I mean, come on. Surely it's growing at 30% per annum and trading at 22 times.
So you can see that PEG ratio, which is price on or growth, right, is obviously attractive. It's on the attractive side.
That's really, really attractive, isn't it? The only downside, I suppose, like you said, is if there's an issue, it's low volume on it. Are they going to be putting more volume in the stock?
Well, I think with time, nature will probably get there, where they'll probably raise some cash. They're probably going to pay some companies they're going to acquire with shares, so they're going to be more shares on issue. So with time, it will probably grow. Saying that, it's still going to be liquid, because it is tightly held story, but it's a good one. So look, at least at a story, how well has it hold on to that blue line, Dave? So at least you've got some sort of historical factor here where you think, okay, I'm happy to accumulate and just hold on.
Yeah, absolutely great. So let's talk about a story that has a long-term plan, because I'll tell you what, JLG has got long-term 3 years of orders. Okay, at least. So they must have some long-term plan. The fact they've got so much orders and so much work, but they've got a long-term theme, haven't they? That the world and all the issues we've got, and climate change, if you believe it, I mean, which I know you do, I'm not saying
all you have to do is the severe weather patterns, right? Oh, let's forget about climate change. Just look at the severe weather patterns that we've had this year, right? Is it going to change next year? I don't think so, right? So it just take that view that I've got right now that those severe weather events will be here to stay for some time, right? Whether you believe in the climate change or don't. If that's the case, these guys are going to have a lot of work, and obviously they work with insurances, they work with councils, with governments to go up and help the businesses, homes, residential, whatever, restoration services, and so on. So they've got two big business units. One is the business as usual, and one is the catastrophe type stuff. And recently they moved into the US, which was for me a big move, right? Always super risky going to the US. We've seen a lot of failures over there. So I'm intrigued to see how they go. But when I look at the US this year, and maybe the last, Canada's been burning all year pretty much, right? We've got these hurricanes that are getting more intense in the US. You can't tell me that these guys are well poised.
Yeah, no, it is. I totally get what you're saying, Wolfie. And
so I'm liking this from a long-term point of view. This is good, and now it's trading on. Come up with an announcement today with growth of about 20%, and they flagging 20% growth in 2024 at this stage, and hopefully they'll under-promise, over-deliver, right? Like they have a long time. So they're trading on 30 times, which is historically very low for them because they used to trade on 40 to 50 times. So again, another business that is maybe not as cheap as your SNLs at 22 times, but I think if you take the long-term view, this is good. At these prices on a monthly chart, Dave, I think this is good.
Yeah, definitely. And if you've got that long-term view, it is looking good, isn't it? Yep. And you know what? It's something that we could definitely have a look at on the end of the month.
Yeah, which is what, 3 days away.
3 days away. Now let's have a look at Min, because they've been in a bit of a downturn. Just been boring. A little bit of life, but Wolf, you wouldn't buy the chart.
I'd buy the story, but I wouldn't buy the chart. Correct. Look, I had a look through the numbers, and I'm still pretty impressed with the management, what they doing with turning a company in a mini BHP Rio in the early days. So they've gone into iron ore, they've gone into lithium, they've gone into gas, they've gone into other, in smaller way, commodities. So I'm thinking they've got this grand plan again. I love grand plans. So I remember FMG had a grand plans of. I remember when FMG was talking, we're gonna be the third biggest, player, iron ore player. And I remember people laughing and them going, "Yeah, right. Yeah, they're gonna do it." Look at them, 20 years down the track. So I've got this. I love this big thinking mentality, and then I look at the management. Can they achieve it? What have they done so far? And I'm like what I'm seeing. And I know, obviously, there's going to be cyclical. It's going to have up and downs depending on the commodity prices. But this is how these companies do very well on a long period. You've got to have the long-term view, because if they keep adding more commodities, more production, more growth, it all adds up bigger profits. It doesn't matter what the market fluctuations will be with the prices of commodities, right? As long as, of course, we're not depressed for 10 years where they're going to probably struggle. So for me, I still like MIN long-term story, right? For me, it's still a very, very, very good, accurate story as long as you're happy with the commodity they're in.
It's funny, if you look at their performance the last, it's had a tremendous move the last 3 years. It's it's actually
accelerated, isn't it?
It's nearly done up. It's nearly been up 500%. I mean, it's incredible, obviously.
And they still are adding more production to iron ore, and obviously looking to lithium, possibly ramp up production there as well. So, like I said, this is a story well worth following. Of course, we've got to marry up the chart with the.
I think, you know what? I think the chart is struggling a little bit, Wolf. I think for those reasons that you've talked about earlier, people worrying about China, worrying about iron ore, is it going to hold up? A little bit, lithium starting to come off a little bit. So maybe there's a few headwinds before this can really trade. And like you said, I think, okay, get on the watch list, a good story. Let's get the market like it. Let's get it over 72, get it swinging, and let's try and trade the easy money, not the hard money, okay?
Agree.
Now, let's have a look at PPS. Still struggling, Wolfie, and it's flat today, so still struggling to get any momentum into the story.
Yep.
What did you make of it all?
Look, the result wasn't that bad. They grew the profit line significantly, but again, there's a few adjustments in there. So they didn't actually provide the adjusted sort of figures for me. So I had to quickly extrapolate some numbers on there. So just on reported figures, EPS of 3 cents. So they're trading on about 21 times on the numbers here, which is not bad. But the question is for me, you've got 3 stories in this space, right? You've got Hub, net wealth, and PPS. I'm always sort of attracted to the top of the class, right? So if I'm going to buy something in a specific sector, I want to buy the best, where I know that they can probably outdo the others. And this is not the one, unfortunately, Dave. It's a tradable stock, no problems, right? Definitely tradable. It can have a good run here and there, like we've seen it before, but I think that Hubs and networks are way ahead.
Yeah, and the chart tells that story, doesn't it? Really.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for that. TYR. I still think the chart is a dog, right? I don't like it. You look at it, it just can't get through trend. Now, is the announcement good enough? Do you think it can change the sentiment?
So the question is the chart misleading to the fundamentals, right? And I don't think so. I think that the chart has got it spot on with this one, right? When you look at the fundamentals, it looks good on paper, and that's why it's jumped up 13% today, right? But there's 2 worries for me. Of course, the current climate, right, business-wise and so on, it is a bit soft, right? And the competition is fairly fierce. And I think there's better companies in this space, right? So while, homegrown Tyro, yes, there's something to like about it, I still think the technology, there's better technology out there. I know I've seen Square with their technology, and I've asked people at markets, for example, who use Tyro, and they use Square, which is their preferred. And most of them say Square. I mean, so I'm just trying to I still understand how they're going to differentiate this and how they're going to beat Square, at this game. And I just can't see it. So potentially they could still grow, maybe get some people on board. But I think there's a limit to this story for me. So no, I don't like it.
All right, Wolf, let's have a look at a turnaround story, MRM.
Yep.
They've got a bit of debt, but I mean, I'm just looking at this NPAT of 127 million.
Yep.
That's bloody impressive.
Yeah, look, I have to say, again, it's misleading slightly because it's not adjusted for me, and it is reported. Now, 80 million in that profit, right? In a 120 million profit, 80 million has been an adjusted number for putting back provisions, right? So they've written stuff off, but now they're going, no, it's not going to happen. We can write that back into our profits. which is obviously non-cash profits.
That's a little bit. So just explain exactly what they did there.
Yeah, so in the bad times, some of the assets weren't going to be as valuable as what they were on the books, right? So they would have gone, okay, our $200 million asset is now worth $100 million asset, so we just had to write that $100 million off in provisions. Now they're adding back on because the times are good again for them, right? So they're writing that, our assets are now worth 200 million again, not 100 million again. So it's just adjustments here and there can throw you out knowing, what the actual real profit number is. So I'm taking that stuff out. I'm taking that 80 million off, and I'm just going to work on that 40 million plus in profits that they have, right? And I tell you what numbers I've come up from. So I'm just having a look at that. What are they? It's 135.5. Just give me a sec. I'm going to put it on what I've got here first of all. So not unadjusted, right? They're trading on 4 times PE, right? This is where the misleading part is. So if I take that 80 million out, they're probably trading at about 13 times, which is still decent when I for a company. Still decent.
And what's their outlook?
Good. They've said they've had a good start without giving you, incredible numbers. They just said it's a good start. We're hoping to grow further in 2024. That's good. So look, I'm not going to knock the company. It's actually going very well. They've got some really nice, strong talents behind them. So You just have to readjust, to see the actual real.
So, Wolf, looking at the NPAT, if you take out that 80 that you're talking about, I'm just reading it now.
Yep.
That means you've got still about 20% NPAT growth, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right, which is nice.
Which trading at 13 times, if they can do that, I mean,
it's still attractive. Absolutely, it's still attractive.
Yeah, I don't like that the way they do that though, Wolf. They put that into their NPAT that bring in. I mean, I don't think really you can call that NPAT, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, but then again, during the bad times, they wrote it up, so it looked really, really bad, right? When they had to go minus 80 million on the profit line. So look, it's a part of accounting. That's what they do. The only thing you've got to do is for yourself is, while you just look at the headline numbers, what they come up with, profit, just go through to see how the profits is actually structured, whether there are one-offs in there, and you can get a quick look through. And anyway, it's still good numbers. It's still good, and it's positive. They're writing stuff back in, which is positive, which is just shows you they're confident of the times ahead.
All right, Fisher and Paykel, Wolfie, in a downturn. You know what? This is really strange because they were doing really well, and how come it's gone so south so quickly? And I'll tell you what, you've had the same price action on RESB as well, right? Look at RESB.
Yep.
Absolutely. The first time ever I've really seen RESB, apart from maybe a little bit last year, but I've never look at RESB in the whole history.
And it's been
it's never looked that ugly. And now Fisher and Paykel, what's going on here in this sector?
I think expectations were way too high for these companies. That's one thing, right? So growth has slowed, and post-pandemic, it was very difficult to sort of pinpoint where they'll be at growth-wise. And I know they had a obviously great period during pandemic, just like RMD has had. Then they had a big drop-off post-pandemic where not everyone needed masks anymore, and their respiratory type stuff, right? So there's a period of adjustment. People go, okay, well, they're going back to the old growth type stuff. No, they're not, because they've just come out and said, we're going to grow by 14 to 15%. And remember, this company, I think the track record has been growing about 20% pre-pandemic. So the growth is not there what it used to be back in the old days. And that's why I think the company's now probably going to languish around the 20 and maybe even below. Because if you look at it, they're not cheap, Dave. These guys are still trading on some crazy numbers. Let me just have a quick look. Right, so on growth, they gave us today a quick update to see, basically, just let us know what they're going to grow at, and they said 14%, right?
I think I've got them at 46 times here.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So at 46 times on 14% growth, not so sure.
All right. They could go down a lot more. I mean, it's hard. That's why you just got to follow the charts, and when these things break trend, you just got to get out. Yep. So Wolf, what about THL, Tourism Holdings?
Hollands, look, it's a New Zealand-based company, doing very well, but I think again that whole sector is doing well. We've seen HLO come up with a very good announcement. We've seen some really, Qantas come up with crazy numbers. Right now, Joyce is under the grill from the Senate inquiry. So they obviously said this sector is going very, very well. So let me just have a quick look for the numbers going on there. So 362 divided by, and I haven't even done it on Australian numbers. I'm just going to use New Zealand numbers. I don't care, but it's cheap. 14 times PE. That looks attractive, I suppose, from an AP point of view, especially when I think they come up with huge growth, right? And potentially they've got more to come. So again, one to follow on a trend. Is it my favorite stock? No, it isn't. Still very early days listed wise, Dave. So for me, just not enough history in there to me get excited. But for the traders, it's probably enough. So I'll leave it for you. But fundamentally decent.
So, hold on. You're telling me, Wolf, that let's just look at this, right? This company is growing at how much?
They're coming off low lows, right? So we got to separate. We've got to separate some years from us, because this is why it's just so difficult to get a handle on this. There is no consistency at this moment, right? They had a pretty poor period during the pandemic. They had a bit of a boost. Now it's the sector's pumping. They should be coming up with better numbers. They are. So on just pure numbers alone, I think what is showing you that is trading on 20 times, right, with a 6% yield, which looks attractive. But I think next year that growth will moderate significantly after that big jump this year. So let's call it water. Let's give them that.
Well, say if they grow 20 times, right? So they're most probably worth between the $3.50 and $4. That's what you're saying.
Correct. Yeah. So you've got you maybe got a trade here between $3.60 and $4 at this stage.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not compelling, is it? It's not compelling.
EOS, needs to hold above that trend line by the end of the week. Wolf, what's going on?
Just a ugly result, unfortunately. Which look, it was going to probably happen. I don't think it was going to be that ugly, but it was, unfortunately. Even though they're improving, we've seen the improvements they come out with previous. That's why we said this green thing. It wasn't going to save them for this financial year. It's probably this new financial year they're going to see better numbers out of it. But unfortunately, investors looked at that ugly number and go, "Oh my God, there's a lot of losses on their books." Look, I don't know. I mean, you got to respect the chart. If it finishes like that, you're out. I mean, if you had a really strong trade on a fairly aggressive terms, you would have been out under $1, right? We talked about it before. But if you've had a longer term understanding that it's going to be fluctuate, then anything under 85 cents, I think you're out.
Yeah, they just for this company just need contracts, don't they? Contracts, some good contracts, and I think they just talk about obviously Ukraine and it's still got the wars.
I think also while the contracts are absolutely super vital, I think they also need to show that they can actually make money, right? That's been probably their downfall at this stage where they've gone 100 million in revenues, but 20 million loss. I mean, come on, you can do it.
That is not on their. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's not on their sort of lightweight vehicles. That's because of the
that's previous write-downs. That's correct, and this is why they need to now. They're under pressure to show that past the previous year and maybe the last 2 years. They need to show a vast improvement of the bottom line, right? This is the trick for them now. And the jury's out. I mean, we've said this is going to be a risk trade because of the past history, with the view that there is green shoots there. But, it all depends whether the market wants to embrace those green shoots and go with it. Maybe they're just not ready yet.
Okay.
See that improve.
Okay, maybe it just needs a little bit longer. That's fine. If it's below the trend, get out of it. We'll go back another day when it does start to move. But I think at the chart, just give it to the end of the week and see where it is. Wolfie, on that note, we've gone through the stories today. I think JLG is interesting. That SNL and JLG are two really interesting stories, aren't they?
Very, very good.
If you look at that, I think that THL, a nice little dividend could have move a little bit higher, right?
I reckon wait till the end of the week with THL. Let's see where it's at the end of the week.
Wolf, tell me so. What is it about this? The government not allowing Etihad? Is it Etihad or one of the other airlines?
Qatar, I think it is.
You got Qatar, right? Which Virgin want to do. Surely, I mean, they're talking that if they allow them, it could be. I mean, we both love going to Europe, and can't afford it, but it's like if they could bring flights down 40%, that would be great, wouldn't it? But do you think it'll happen or not?
I hope it bloody does. Look, I'm all for bringing down the prices. So come on, Qatar, come in. But I don't know. I mean, is it lobbying by Qantas saying no? I mean, do they have that much power in their management where they can actually say, please don't let anyone else in. We're going to hoard all our spaces. And the dynamics of this whole, it's maybe political. I don't know. It's a strange, Dave, but you'd think that the government would be very open to competition to ease a lot of these prices on some of these stuff, which is driving our bloody inflation, right? Surely you'd go,
well, you think so. So I think it's actually a big driver because everybody I know wants to fly everywhere and go and see the world. And even I had to go down to Adelaide on business, and it's pretty expensive flights. Yep. I mean, just local. It's crazy. So I think maybe, hopefully, common sense will prevail, and
we will get more competition by letting in airlines to service the routes here in Australia and overseas. Surely, come on.
All right. We'll see. On that note, Wolfie, I think there's some interesting stories today, and definitely that, you know, THL, SNL, JLG could be. We won't put them on now, but I think.
Well, let's wait till the month, because remember, we're talking monthly charts, right? So let's have a look at these monthly charts, see how they are, and we'll take it from there. There's no rush into this. I don't think they're going to, you know, go up 1,000% overnight. And anyway, join us for tonight's and Ask the Analyst. You can ask us questions right there and then to us.
And we're live.
Exactly.
All right. See you, Wolf. Take care, mate. Bye.
All right. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.